Hello, everyone, and welcome to part two of our Space Marine Codex review. We're actually still doing this on the same day, and you can't really realize the difference. So, with me, I've got Lesiu, who I have called the first Land Raider driver of 10th edition.
Hello,
Hello,
everyone.
Lesiu. And we've got Olivier, who's the Space Marine innovator, coming here to share some ideas as well.
Hello.
Guys, so what we've got in store for you is we're going to go through some archetypes that are now showing with the new Space Marine book, and then we've got as much as 4 lists to discuss, talk about, talk strategies, talk combos, and all that good stuff. So let's start with the list archetypes. So, guys, has anything become more common with the Space Marine release? I mean, we've had a few tournaments, and you've obviously been tinkering with power armor. Any ideas what's gonna be prevalent in, I don't know, in Atlanta or anywhere in the near future?
Yeah,
Sure.
Lesiu.
So, yeah, so like we talked in part one, there are some few more notable detachments that you can use. And actually, at least at this stage, there are people that are using probably most of those. Or there, at least they try to use them in competitive lists. So we have Iron Hands, as you would call it, the vehicle-based list. You have the Firestorm or Salamander one, based on Melta, Multi-Meltas, Flamers, and so on. You have Space Wolves list based mm, on the White Scars detachment. That's basically now a go-to detachment for Space Wolves. And then you can still play. You definitely can still play good old Gladius, probably based somewhere around Land Raider with aggressors. They are still very, very killy unit. And you can probably still include Deathwing Knights that are still very viable. And then just add some chaff, add some maybe like anti-tank or some more heavier shooting, and you're good to go there.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, that's the four archetypes we've been working on the late tournament. So we can see all around the world those uh, obvious go-to at the first the early time of the meta, the Space Marine meta. I'm sure other archetypes are gonna come in the Shadow Master, so the Phobos detachment, one day or another, and maybe I know we're already working on it. Liz, you and I on embarked builds, but at the moment they're not very popular.
Why do you think is that? Is that something that requires, I don't know, a bit more repetitions in terms of playing, or has a skill cap, or any other reason?
Yeah, I believe it both. It's both. At first, you need when you try to know and to improve your skill on the codex, you have to try the obvious go-to that you can read and you that you can find and understand at the first reading. Otherwise, you're not able to say it is good, but it could be better, or it is very not as good as you could think, or it is very good and it was on the paper and it is still good on the table. So it is too early in the meta to see more complex and more uh, let's say um, weird building become very popular.
Yeah, I totally agree. Also, it's like when you are building a list for on in the new with the new codex, you are usually first drawn to like more obvious choices, and like it takes a little bit time and a little bit practice to actually find all those intricacies that you can find in the book, or some like some units that are probably like spammable, but they are not so obvious at the first glance. Like the aggressors that we already mentioned with Apothecary, well, they were not obvious. Everyone was playing the Apothecary with Desolators at the beginning. So yeah, you need to find this stuff. You need to like go through the book multiple times. You need to calculate some options.
Yeah.
You need to put it on the table usually. Like, I mean, I had a version of Firestorm in the last tournament, and I put it, and on the paper it looked fine, but I put it on the table and it had some flaws. Well, it's how it goes. Like it's rarely the case that your first version of the list is working fine.
Yeah, the aggressor bomb is actually a good example. When the V8 aired first, and we've seen the firepower and the sorry the bolter discipline. And so everyone that has read the bolter discipline first thought to put it on the Sternguard veteran, then on the Desolator, and then only one or two in the word thought it would be very interesting to put it on the aggressors, or let's say more than one or two. But when you choose that, you realize there's a delivery system problem because you're slow, and Lesiu find a way to bring a very efficient delivery system with the Land Raider, and that's how the process is done. So you need time, you need practice, you need to be inventive. So it's too early for the moment for those weird builds to be popular, but they will become popular.
Okay. And do you think that all the archetypes that we've discussed, do they have anything in common, and any like matchups that none of them are actually good into, or
Well,
anything
what
like that?
I would say they have in common the research of the new alpha and omega attrition mechanism of the 10th version, that is lethal hit into full reroll, or critical 5 into lethal hit if you can sustain, and then full reroll. So the Space Wolf is based on that because the wolf are lethal. The Iron Storm is based on that because critical 5 sustain and lethal. The Gladius with the aggressor bomb has that also. It's only the Flamestorm that has not that mechanism working on, but still has the mortal wounds to replace that. So it is it's a bit different from Flamestorm, but the others are always looking for this kind of mechanism.
Yeah, all those builds are looking for a way to bypass the issue we have with the new codex. Well, we don't know. We no longer have full reroll to wound, which was very important for a lot of weapons. And well, getting lethal hits with, especially with 5-up critical hits, is very efficient to bypass it. And actually, Firestorm has another way to bypass it by +1 to wound, by taking twin linked weapons, by taking aggressors with flamers, with dev wounds like Olivier mentioned. And well, there are few ways to go around it, and you need to like capitalize on those, because otherwise your damage is not high enough.
That's right.
But and regarding the matchups that you ask about, well, I'm not sure it's we are ready to like tell that certain matchups are easy or hard, because I don't think we had enough repetitions with the lists yet. Like, you can probably already say that Eldar are still tough for Space Marines, because well, they are tough for a lot of armies out there. So, and like before the codex, the Space Marines had really bad matchup against Eldar. So I think it's still hard, but some of those lists can play with Eldar. Well, but then again, if you go like full shooting Firestorm, you can, for example, have some tough times with combat heavy Chaos Space Marines, because they can just rush you, and it is an issue. So there are some, like, each of those builds have some different pros and cons, but well, it's a little bit early to like say that it's set in stone. And
Which
Hmm.
is good actually, because it means the codex and the meta that is offered by the codex is rich enough for you to build several things and have to have pleasure with Vols or um, with your ultramarines or with your mechanics list with the several tanks and walkers. So means you can have fun with lots of builds at the moment.
yeah, probably in like 2 or 3 months we'll have some more um, well, more concrete like answers after we play some scrims, after we see some team tournaments. Then we'll probably have one or two defensive builds and maybe one offensive. Let's hope so. And then we'll probably have like ready matrices to share. But now it's a little bit early, I think.
Yes, it is.
Okay. So before we go into the lists themselves, I just want to say something that I forgot to say at the beginning, which is a massive thank you to our sponsors, so the Army Painter and Weyland-Yutani, as well as a huge thanks to all our Patreons. We wouldn't be doing this without you guys. Now then, which list do we want to start with? Olivier, I'll give you the first pick.
Okay, I'd say we should start by the most obvious wombo combo you would see when you read the codex is the Iron Storm, because anytime a codex Space Marine is airing, you always watching really closely the Iron Hand or Iron Storm, because they have always been very strong at any codex. What do you think, Lesiu? Let's talk about that.
Yeah, sure, we can start with that.
So to remind everyone, the Wombo combo that is within this codex is the aura of lethalite coming from a tech marine for all the vehicles within six. So very, very efficient to bypass the loss of reroll wounds and still getting lossless efficient. So I believe, I'm not sure in this list we have the whirlwind, but you could have three whirlwinds having lethal. So you have an artillery that is very efficient, especially with the full reroll, because lethal full reroll is 30% auto wound, and then you throw the dice to wound. The other part of the wombo combo is the one CP you can spend on a vehicle that gives critical on 5 and sustain on 5. So that brings your auto wound to 55% and your sustain. So you hit on 8 out of 9 and you will wound 55% of your attacks before throwing the wounds. So you could put that kind of wombo combo on the whirlwind early game when you have no line of sight on anything very valuable, and then start to put that on units that have a high volume of shooting. And most of the time, the worse the shooting is, the bigger is the improvement given by the wombo combo. Let's say you do not need strength to wounds. You will want low strength, high AP, high damage. Most of the time, you will not have that. So you will have low strength, low AP, high damage, or low strength, high AP, low damage. But it's still very, very efficient. So let's go through the list.
Yep. So
Tech,
we've got the Tech Marine you just mentioned at the very top, I believe, because
hmm
that's the enhancement, right?
hmm
Now we have another Tech Marine.
Yeah, you will
With
have three Tech Marines with three aura. So you have first aura that
Actually,
is
2 hour.
two aura, yeah, yeah, sorry. Two aura. The first aura is the lethalite. The second aura is the fall back and shoot, advance and shoot authorization for your vehicle. And the last one is not an aura, but is you can cancel a damage done to one of your vehicle within 6. So it's very interesting because that's another part of a that's another combo. In this list, you can revenge shoot to a unit that has brought you under half your strength. So using this kind of enhancement, you can at least make your opponent fail to one shot you and leave you at the end of the activation under half of your strength, allowing you to shoot back. That make you very cost efficient because you engage the unit, you shoot, and then you shoot during the opponent turn. That could also disable one unit. No, it's not near shoot back. Sorry. So that makes you very cost efficient. And if you get lucky, you can also shoot back and survive, which is a very then it is a very big problem for your opponent because you're going to be able to shoot without any -1 to hit or any malice that you would have from being wounded with a stratagem. So you would shoot 3 times instead of one. Not very it's not very good news for your opponent. So that's the 3 tech marines that are healing, giving +1 to hit in close combat only, I believe. uh, is it +1 to hit in close combat, Lesiu, or is it also in shooting?
I
Can't remember.
think it's now. I mean, it used to be only in shooting, but now I believe it's for both.
Okay, I'm just gonna check it, but then you can go through the rest of the list. So that's the 3 tech marines that are non-operative, close to any vehicle. So you have to note that one of the flows of the list is the obligation to respect those aura and those lone operative rules. That makes your gameplay pretty static and pretty predictable.
Yeah, it might be an issue, especially on terrain heavy boards, where well, maybe let's finish going through the list. As you will
Mhm,
see, there are mostly vehicles in the list,
mhm.
as all those items, all those enhancements are working on vehicles. So you try to capitalize on those as well as on stratagems. And also, let's not forget that we have a reroll to hit or to wound or damage from our chapter tactic, like our passive uh, detachment rule. So we also try to bring a lot of low volume, high strength, high damage weapons to
Absolutely.
capitalize all those rerolls. So like we can see in here, we have 2 ballistus dreadnoughts that both have last cannon and missile launchers. So again, high strength, low volume shots that you can capitalize reload zone. They also have built-in reloads when they are shooting something that is above staff, not below half strength, I believe.
Yeah.
Uh,
So they are very pretty autonomous. They can shoot their own target without using the auto of movement. So and it's also like it's become with the drop of points they've got from the codex. It has become one of the power creep you will have from the predators, let's say, or older tank that could have done the same amount of shot or the same work previously. Now the ballistic that we haven't seen in on the table since is it has been released. Now we're gonna see it because
yeah,
it's
and
cheap.
it also has 2 up armor save, which makes it quite durable.
Yep.
Then, if we go next, we have some chaff for missions. So it's actually a Space Wolves list, to be precise, because we have permission wolves. So it's very fluffy list. Then we have some Inceptors for, again, mostly for missions, maybe killing some lone op. And then we have something that is very important in all those Iron Hands lists. Those are Redemptor Dreadnoughts. They are important because they have -1 damage, and they also have at least some close combat. So they are useful to push the board, especially somewhere in the middle, so that you are not getting pushed off of the objectives. And it also works really well with the enhance that Olivier so well described. So if you have -1 damage, you have Armor of Contempt, you have usually Cover, and you can also deny the high damage shot that you get from, I don't know, Last Cannon, Melta, or something even bigger like Lancer or something similar. Then you are very durable for a lot of different profiles,
Yeah,
and
and
it
you
is
get
very
healed.
hard to shift them.
Yeah, and you also get healed once a battle round. So it is very durable, very and also very impactful on the center because, as you said, there is close combat abilities, but it also high strength, so very efficient on tank shock.
Yeah,
So it also gives you a mortal wound source that you are lacking with the rest of the army.
yeah. I actually know that the new list has another one of those Redemptor Dreadnoughts
Yeah,
because they are very useful.
yeah,
And then
I
we
would
have
put three. Yeah,
yeah, and then we have something maybe not so obvious, but actually it works really well with this Iron Hand list, especially with the combo that Olivier mentioned. So 5-up criticals with a lot of shots from some small, let's say, chaff weapons. There's a lot of those. So we have two Repulsor Executioners that have heavy laser destroyer that usually uses the rerolls, and then a lot of the small chaffs that will just pop
I
some
would
extra wounds.
I would say that funnily, this unit is less using the lethal abilities than the sustained, because as you have very high quality shots, you are really looking for sustained. So to multiply your shots. Of course, if you get lethal, you are happy. But with a heavy destroyer laser, you with a reroll, one hit would wound most of the time. So that's why it was not that obvious. I agree with you. And
Yeah,
now
but you also need to remember that you have a lot of small shots there, like Twin Heavy
also, yeah.
Bolter, Heavy Stabber, Defensive Array, another Heavy Stabber, Rocket Pod. All of those Gatling Cannon, all of those shots
Yeah,
capitalize on the lethal
yeah,
hits,
yeah, yeah. I agree.
especially against like medium or light infantry.
So
Yeah.
I've got a question here because I don't think this list has a gladiator. No, it doesn't. And I've more often seen gladiators taken rather than repulsor executioners. So do you guys think the repulsor is worth the extra point investment?
In
Because
with
it
the combo,
supports the
yeah.
same heavy gun, right?
Yes, but as
Essentially.
Lesiu said, you the Lancer first is quite expensive now. That's the first point. And second point, you do not have the volume that would benefit largely from the Wombo combo you're activating. So let's say if you're activating the Repulsor Executioner, you could target one target with your heavy weapon that you would destroy something that is like a vehicle or something, and use your passive abilities to reroll hits, wounds, or damage. And you would use the high volume, low strength attacks you have on a unit that would be completely saturated with the sustained critical 5 and lethal. The Lancer would not benefit from that, and also it would be highly redundant with the ability from the chapter, because you have already, I believe, on the Lancer one reroll hit, one reroll wound. So
And
most of the time, you would only need one to full hit with full wound. So this is a unit that is not benefiting from the stratagem and not benefiting from the passive.
also, well, Repulsor is slightly more durable, and
Yeah.
it also can transport some small chaff units for some missions. So it's an added value, and I know that you can use it because, well, if your opponent has whirlwinds or night spinners or something like that, why not to hide your chaff in the repulsor? And actually, we see scouts that if you don't need them to screen like first turn, you could probably hide them in repulsor.
And
And
then
then we
3
have,
whirlwinds.
then we have three whirlwinds that, well, no loss is always valuable. And here, when you can use lethal hits to score some extra wounds, it's actually really lethal.
Yeah.
So,
And as you
guys,
really need those, it's what you didn't say is uh, it makes the link with the other part of the discussion is one of the flow of the list is being unable to very efficiently go behind a wall, kill a unit that is hidden and holding an objective. So that's a flow of the list because it's mechanized and you cannot go through walls. So if you do not have lossless, very efficient lossless, you will lose against any good player.
Yeah,
You
if
need those.
enemy would just place models 1 inch from the wall, and well, what can you do?
Mm.
Run around them.
And even with those, the flows are not fully corrected and fully compensated.
Yeah, so this list obviously performs a lot better on like less on the board that has a lot less terrain because, well, it has a very heavy shooting profiles, and can push the opponent from the board. But on the table that has a lot more dense terrain, it will probably struggle a bit to play missions and to play primary. So
Yeah.
it's
And
definitely affected by the terrain.
yeah, to be clear, game workshop terrain that are populated with very low density and 2 inches wall that you can cross with any vehicle, you would be happy to play this kind of list. WTC, you cannot cross any wall because every wall is more than 2 inches, at least five, most of the time nine. So then move block is going to be a thing against you, so it's not going to be that efficient.
any tips on how to play this kind of list in terms of positioning, maybe the type of missions you want to play, whether it be fixed or tactical?
Hmm. Um,
Because with just
well,
a unit of wolves and a unit of scouts, and okay, a unit of inceptors, it feels like fixed might be rough.
Yeah, I think if your opponent doesn't give away any assassinate or bring it down, which you obviously would pick, especially bring it down because you're probably really good into killing vehicles. Well, then you're probably playing tactical. Well, you use
yeah,
your chaff for it, and you can always do some missions with one of your vehicles. You have plenty of those.
yeah, and you're also very efficient to kill, so you, you can bet that the tactical that are um, demanding to hold the center or any objective in the no man's land are going to be available. And as Lizzie said, if the opponent is giving you one of the two attrition secondary, you will be able easily to play deploy teleport over as the second one. So maybe it could be your go-to if assassinate and or bring it down are available. Otherwise, it's tactical.
Yeah, also you need like I think it's one of those lists that think like that it needs like when you build it, you are just playing for the kill. Like dead men don't score.
Yeah.
Yep, one of the mottos that we repeat here from time to time. And another question I have Wouldn't it be difficult to keep all those vehicles in, at least at times, in the auras or in range of the Adept of the Omnissiah enhancement? Because I feel like you can pick them apart by shooting something that's not in range of the damage nullification, or yeah, I think that's probably the only one you can realistically play around.
Well, there's only one aura you need to respect is the lethal because you want to be as lethal as you can. So you want to have your whirlwind within 6, and you want to have your front line within 6. So this is the only one you want to respect. The other one is the more asymmetrical because you're not exposing all your unit at the same time. And you do not need all your units as badly as, for example, a Redemptor on an objective. So you don't really need to have all your unit within the nullification of damage. And most of the and same goes for the advance and shoot or fall back and shoot. That is even more asymmetric. You only need that on your front lane, so you don't need. So that's basically that's your front lane tech marine following the um, the dreadnought.
Dreadnoughts.
Yep.
So, would you guys say that this list plays castled up, like Redemptors in the front pushing the table, Whirlwinds behind but trying to stay in the aura of lethal hits, and then, I don't know, are Repulsors able to flank on themselves, or is there any other way to pilot this list?
I
Well,
believe when you're like deploying and playing like turn one, turn two, you probably stay very castle up, as at least as much as the terrain and opponent lets you. But as the game progresses, you can definitely like split a little bit. Like the Redemptors can take their damage nullification, Tech Marine, and just run up the objectives to push some points, push some primary, and like leave the little hits with repulsors and whirlwinds
mm,
to do some more damage in the back. Why not?
I agree with that. In just one precision, when we say castled up, it can be a very aggressive castle because it, in early stage of the game you need to be very efficient on your attrition. So of course you need to be uh, uh, packed around your tech marine, but maybe your opponent did not have the firepower to really be a problem for your unit. So you can have your whirlwind in the front lane also, because if he takes the line of sight, then you have the line of sight and you are shooting really hard. So it can be a very aggressive castle.
Yeah, you can move your whole castle just up the board and just
Yeah,
have your whirlwinds just not being in the deployment zone or in the corner, but rather like somewhere close to the deployment zone line. And so from there, you have basically like 12-inch
yeah,
circle. So if you add a vehicle size, it's actually quite a big diameter that you have. Uh, I would say it's around 20 inches or so. So it's not a small castle and you can actually push with it. So
yeah,
All right. So this list was brought to us by the WTC legend that is Skark of Team Poland, and he played it at Mysons, so another member of Contact Lost tournament, Pyrrha Cup, which happened last weekend.
mm,
Moving on, just because it's convenient, let's go into the Space Wolves list.
yeah.
Also played at Pyrrha Cup by Max from the German team. The guys have actually won the event, so congrats to them. And this is another Space Wolves list, as was the one before,
The real
although
one, the real
maybe a
one.
little bit more thematic this time round.
overpowered
So,
codex.
Yeah, sure. So let's go through it. So we have very low points unit in Space Wolf that are very efficient to do the scoring. So why not taking them? So for Cyber Wolf, 20 points. Problem is it's a character, but after that it's very interesting to have 20 points to do the secondaries. Librarian
Is it a
Phobos.
problem when you have like already like 10 characters or
Yeah,
so,
exactly. It's not a problem if you're
you're already
already
giving up
giving,
assassination.
of course. So Librarian Phobos is there to give the, I believe, I'm guessing, in this unit you have the Morkai Hounds. That's why the Librarian Phobos is there, right? So it's there to give one unit that is very specialized on Tip Seeker the Lone Up abilities. We're gonna talk about it when we see the Hounds of Morkai. Lieutenant in combi weapon, it's very interesting right now because its abilities has been improved to all the table and not the aura. So you choose an objective at the start of the game, and then all your army is rerolling ones to wounds. It like kind of compensate part of the Oath of Moment reroll wounds on a very small area, and it's also very dodgy because you can move 6 when you enter this 9, so it's very hard to catch.
He
Or read
also
this. Yep.
he also have really nice defensive profile for a
Yeah.
low nope because he has 5 up, feel no pain with 4 wounds.
And stealth.
So it's
Yep.
not so easy to
Yeah.
shift with armor of contempt or and cover.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree. Stealth, symbol of contempt, feel no pain. Very hard to kill. Ulrich the Slayer. Um I think it's just a character that is supposed to give a +1 to wound because it is, sorry, um, not a paladin. It is a help me, Lesiu. What kind of
Kaplan.
a thank you, chaplain? That's the innovative Space Marine player. Hello, chaplain. And then we have the wolf leaders. So I believe we're gonna have 3 pack of wolf with 3 to 6 leaders. How many leaders do we have in the wolves? 6,
Actually, only 4.
4. Okay.
So each
So
of the packs have a battle leader, which I believe
mhm,
is more important
yep,
because he gives lethal hits, and 2, he gives a unique ability that once per battle, after you've been shot, you can move d6 inches, and what's important, you can get into combat with this move. So it works kind of like the berserker skill.
it's a surge.
So you need to be very, yeah, little sir, need to be very careful. The opponent needs to be very careful when he shoots the unit to not get into combat on his turn.
Yep. And the other leader is
Just
a
Wolford,
captain. Yeah, so it's there
double
to
the
yeah,
stratagem.
double a -1 hit, -1 wound, or armor of contempt, and giving +1 to charge, I believe. So you are a little bit faster than the others, but you need at least one to double the -1 hit, -1 wound. Some
Yep.
lists will also just maximize the toughness and the pack, the wolf pack. So the other interest to have a leader is having another body and another guy hitting with a hammer or something. So you would say lists with 3 captain, three lieutenants.
Yeah,
Hmm.
it is important to add those leaders because basic Thunderwolves have only AP1 and damage 1 on damage or damage 2 when they charge. So their basic profile, it's not that great, but if you count in those standard hammers, they actually start adding up, especially with lethal hits and full reroll to hit. You are actually doing some real damage opposed to like just biting because one of the tactics you could employ into those Thunderwolves. If they don't have that many leaders, you can try to charge them with some like semi-durable vehicles or some units like that, and just try to mm,
Crowd
uh,
control them. Yeah,
crowd control them because when they are not charging, they only have damage 1, only -1 AP, and they are actually very big models that don't go through terrain. So if the leader is on the other side, for example, of the pack, you can try to charge them from one side. Don't get hit by a leader. Try to like tie them up a little bit so that yeah, if you do it with a vehicle or some more durable unit. You can make a line so they cannot cross it and can go around terrain. So they are like stopped in place. So you need to take this in consideration when building the Space Wolves list, and probably use at you need the battle leader, but you also should probably think about some lords to add some more punch there.
Yep, I agree with that. Then we have the blood claws, and I can see a rhino. So I believe this is meant to be able to score the mission in early stage, even if your opponent is engineering crowd control from your wolves, as you are high objective control infantry and highly mobile, because you will be able to disembark 3, move 6, advance and charge. So you are very efficient on contesting uh, objective from the opponent, and that's one of the flows of the list. Even if you get a good matchup on a very heavy table, you would be delayed, hard delayed by move block on in between the ruins. So uh, even a good matchup or very good matchup could end like 12 or 13 in your favor. With this kind of technique of tech within the list, I believe you are able to go further on your good matchup and get 15 or 16, because you are contesting primary also early game.
Yeah, and they're also clearing some chaff units efficiently without using the expensive, well, not expensive, but like your main punching
Mm,
units.
yep.
Well, you don't have whirlwinds there.
Yeah, that's it. So then lots of Fermin Wolves. So they can. So they also can, I believe, cross the wall because they are beasts. They are not mounted, right?
Yep.
So it's also for the same purpose. That's why they are so many. Most of the time, most player would play them in a low effective, low number in the pack. But when you have 10, you obviously aiming for OC. So they're also serving the same purpose. Then you have the Hounds of Morkai that are very interesting because they are specialized in anti-psyker, in shooting and in close combat, I believe. So they have Deva Wound on shooting with a pistol, and Deva Wound in close combat, and anti-psyker 4, I believe, in both shooting and close combat. But they have high volume of attack only in close combat. So they are efficient, and they were more efficient with the reroll wounds because you were efficient against any target, because reroll wounds into dev wounds of you will do 30% of dev wounds anytime you shoot anyone, not only psychers. Now I believe the stack was there to prevent the opponent from hard infiltrate unit in order to hard move block the board early game and allow a very hard rush through the passage securized by the Hoods of Mokai. So even if you're not playing against Psychers, you have those infiltrated. Oh no, they're not infiltrated, right? Are they? I
I'm
don't
not
want
sure.
to. I'm not sure. I'm just gonna check.
Oh,
Space Wolf. Are they? They should be. In my opinion, they should be. But you never know.
that's
Space Wolf. Space Wolf. Space Wolf. Sorry. Belgium. Space Wolf. Space Wolf. No. Aircraft World B. Black Templar. Death
escaping
Watch.
condition. Were we checking? They're
Space
not.
Wolf.
They're scouts. They're not infiltrators. They have a scout
Okay.
of
Okay.
6 inches.
So I'm gonna correct the sentence. They are scouts, so they're not allowing to counter the opponent infiltrated. but still they are securing and allowing you to pilot more efficiently the tempo of the game, the rhythm of the game. Because if you are supposed to hide, because there is a very high firepower in your opponent on your opponent's side, having those lone up infiltrated able to deal with the early game on the bad matchup, for example, or on the matchup that would need to go slow on the game and adopt an other gameplay that you would have most of the time, that is everyone advancing and charging as fast as they can. So they are authorizing like another way to play this list, I believe. And also, of course, improving the Grey Knight matchup by far.
or or thousand sun.
Oh, thousand some, they're not very popular at the moment, but
Yeah,
for example, Grey Knight are very efficient to kill your aggressive and assault gameplay, because you only need to put a 10 man, sorry, Terminator unit um, right in the center of the board, and then you will only have 9 inches charge to try on this unit. Otherwise, if you enter the 9 inches, it can either move or go back into deep strike. So it brings a very dicey method to deal with the Grey Knight. If you have Hounds of Morkai, it's not really the same.
yeah. You can actually just also use a 5 man, just a normal squad drop within 3, and it's even
Of
more
course, it's even more
uh, like
problematic.
yeah, yeah, because you cannot pass through them, so
Yeah.
you are basically stuck in your deployment forever. Because Grey Knight
In
could
that
do it
case, the
every
scoot
turn.
move, yeah, in that case, the scoot move is also good to
Yeah,
prevent that from coming from happening. And then in scepters that you know about, it is very efficient. It's very self efficient because of the twin linked, and
yeah. So we
also
have a big squad
unavoidable.
for some damage and small squad for missions or killing some lone up.
And then
Most,
scoot
you
squad,
will see those in most lists probably now.
yeah. Then
Then
the
we've
scoot
got some
squad, they go.
scouts.
It's completely given, 55 points, and the abilities like the Calidus to go back in the deep strike, and then the 3 pack of cavalry, Thunderbolts. So they are 4 wounds, 4 up invul, toughness 6, and with this stratagem -1 hit, -1 to wound. So very efficient to break any attrition combination that your opponent will have, because normally to kill that kind of unit you will need high, well, good good shooting, so good AP and good strength and good damage. But when you have all those, you do not have the volume, or you have like low or average volume of shoot, and -1 to hit, -1 to wound will completely crush this kind of anti-elite attrition.
Yeah, and
So
it's also important that they are for wounds. So units like Forge Fiends or Exocrines or units that are really
yeah,
good into killing those elite infantry units like Terminators are actually not that effective against Thunderwolf, especially with -1 to hit and -1 to wound.
yeah, that's true. So what is actually effective is the wombo combo critical 5 sustain and lethal. So that would be effective because you don't care about the -1 to wound, and you don't really care about the -1 to hit. So that's why everyone is trying to bring this kind of attrition profile in their list.
Especially on a whirlwind, because you're probably out on -1 to hit anyway, and it doesn't add up, so you're good.
Yeah, and you get
Absolutely.
some extra shots from the size of the squad, and you are bringing them to 4 up invulnerable unless they use Armor of Contempt. So you are 2 damage each, wounding on 3s base, so it's
Yeah.
actually quite good profile. even without lethals, but with lethals is actually doing some serious damage to those units.
Still, they are very bulky, very tanky, and also if your opponent is playing it quite well, most of the time you will only have one activation from your unit to kill them or to do them enough damage. Why? Because you're gonna try to rush your opponent, move 10 plus 9 or 10 plus d6, but and plus one eventually with the captain. So you're gonna be able to charge. You're gonna charge a unit A, kill the unit A, engage the unit B, and then the unit B is gonna eventually fall back during the opponent turn. You've made sure the unit B is a slow movement unit, so less than 9-inch movement. It is going to end less than 9 from you. You're going to pay 1 CP, move 6 inches towards this unit, and then you know that your surge or whatever the abilities is called, your ability to out of phase move when you are shooting, you shot at. So the opponent is going to shoot at you, and then you're going to move d6. You're 1 inches from your opponent, so you're going to engage your opponent, and then you're going to be safe again in a close combat. If you do not have 2 units offered by your opponent to do this kind of microgestion or this kind of trick, you can also charge unit A and moderate your attrition also with event, for example, the oath of moment that is allowing you to pilot the attrition with rerolling the success rolls, and you're gonna try not to kill it, and it's the same effect.
Actually,
These
you
kind of
also have
moves are
so large
very clutch.
bases.
Sorry?
You actually have bases that are so large that with proper placing, you can block your other models from the unit from striking by just putting one in base to base to like 2 or 3
Yep.
models, and then just placing the other, so blocking other models from getting to base, and then just placing one model
Yeah.
in base with the second one, or not even if you are not able to get into base to base, you can move the other models around and not do any damage with
Yeah.
like one guy.
Or even holding your mates by having a very large footprint on the
Yeah,
table, because coherency prevail on basing the opponent. You can have a very long footprint and saying first one is not moving, second one is not moving, third one is not moving. So they are holding themselves back from the fights, and you only have one fighting.
So you can do the good old trick of wrapping in combat, sort of, and staying in it.
Yep, absolutely. It is quite expensive because it costs you 1 CP and one shot abilities, but still it can be very clutch because if you are close to your opponent deployment zone, and maybe your opponent does not know the trick, you are gonna cancel entire shooting phase from your opponent and then be safe and hardly full power, killing the unit that you just engaged during his turn, and then uh, charge wherever you want because you can fall back and charge. Or if you've killed the unit, move at 19 and then charge wherever you want. And you are very lethal.
you can also just push forward more if you want. You can just do well, 6 plus d6 inches forward if you want. Why not?
Also,
There's a lot of possibilities here because it adds mobility to your army. It allows you to change the geometry of the board during your opponent's turn. It's very versatile
yeah.
ability.
We just talk about the more complex movement and the more clutch movement, but it can be also used, as you say, as just different mobility and acceleration or hiding. So very
Yeah,
interesting.
your opponent need to be very careful in his like first or second turn movement phases, depends who goes first, because you can really like mess up the board by just placing like one unit not not in the proper place, and allowing the other unit to move up and then getting closer.
Yeah.
Well, it's very
Yeah,
tricky to
you can
play against.
offer, you can offer acceleration uh or a hidden hiding place uh to your opponent by doing a very small mistake that would cost you the game and cost you even a 20 nail.
It also g- works well in for the missions, because if you are pushing the board with those cavalry units, and also your opponent knows that they cannot get it in 9, they are actually creating the whole zone that is a no-go for your opponent models.
Yep.
So if they don't have like some heavy reserves that can go in the back or something like that, they lose the board presence very quickly, and will probably lose some primary points turn 2, turn 3, and it might be too hard to get back from it.
And also allow impact on your front line, because as we said, the counter move against this kind of unit that cannot cross the wall is trying to crowd control. Well, you cannot crowd control and be outside of 9. So if you choose to be outside of 9, there's plenty of space for the cavalry to deploy the game. And if you go within 9, you take the risk of having this cavalry hiding within a close combat that you offer them. So it is, I believe, you will have to learn to play against this list and lose the first one or two times you're going to play against.
I hate to say it as a Thousand Suns fan, but I really like this list, which annoys me a little bit. But it feels like it's got really a lot to offer with the good combat. It's fast. It can be very durable, and there's a lot of maneuverability tricks that you guys just explained hidden inside. But I don't feel it's very popular.
You
Do
have
you
to
think there are
be
any obvious
very
flaws that I
rich.
might be missing, other than the large bases on the cavalry
Yeah,
that
It's also
might
the
make it
model.
complicated on WTC?
You don't
yeah.
really
Well,
have the
there are
model
flaws.
also.
There are flaws. It's called 2-up armor save with armor of contempt.
Yeah, also.
Yeah, I mean you are
That's not
mostly
in this list.
AP1 or AP2. You are, and some obviously some death wounds, but you are not very reliable with those without wound reroll. So if you are faced like, well, the least we had area Redemptor Dreadnought, that is -1 damage, and
Oh yeah,
basically
it
one
just
up armor save. You can just hold the whole unit of cavalry.
Yeah, and you shouldn't also underestimate the effect of the modeling question, because who has 24 wolves to play on the board?
okay.
That's also one of the reason the Genestial Cult was not that played when it was completely busted. It's because the army is very expensive to buy and very hard to collect. This one is also rarely efficient. So it's new, and it's you have a window. If you are a Space Wolf player, it's your 3 or 4 month. That's now. But outside of this window, it wasn't very good, and I believe it will not be very good after that. So people are not buying those models. Also, that's sad because they are. I think they are cool.
They are cool, but also it's more. I think it's more of a teams list. I'm not sure it will do very well in singles. That's also probably a
Probably.
factor here.
Yep. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's move on. Lesiu, your turn to pick. I'm sorry I kind of jumped in, but it was just convenient to switch tabs. So you can either pick from the Firestorm or the classic Gladius list that we've got at the
Sure.
ready.
Well, if I'm picking Gladius.
Of course.
Okay, of course you are. Let me just put it on the screen. There we go. Let me just try and make that a little bit more readable for everyone. Okay. Then start us off. What's in this list?
Okay, so we start the list with an Ancient in Terminator armor. It actually gives +1 objective control to Deathwing Knights. It's very useful for an objective for primary game. But not only that, it also gives +1 to hit when they are below starting strength and +1 to wound when they are below half strength, which is often like well, a lot of people are not looking at this part, but it's quite useful. Even though Deathwing Knights have 2-up weapon skill, they still can get -1 to hit. So it comes up sometimes, and it works on Thunder Hammers that are 3-up weapon skill. And also, Ancient got cheaper, significantly cheaper. It was like 90 points or something like that before. So it's probably good to include him. And then we have the Apothecary. That's like basically it enables the aggressor's combo. So he gives lethal hits and he gives sustained through the enhancements. And you can get critical hits on 5-ups when the unit is under effects of Devastator Doctrine. So either use the Doctrine on the army or use a stratagem to enable the Doctrine on the single unit. Then we have Azrael, which is actually a good choice because he gives additional command points. And if you have 100 or so points in your list, he enables some additional use of stratagems, especially now when Captain is not so reliable here because only like 2 of the stratagems for Deathwing Knights are battle tactics, namely Armor of Contempt and Honor of the Chapter, the one that gives Lance and additional AP in Assault Doctrine. So I will actually include Azrael in my list as well. He also has really nice profiles, so he has 2 shots or 3 shots in close range with strength aimed -2, 3 damage, 2 damage -3. Sorry, dev wounds weapon. So he can actually kill like
Anti-infantry.
1 or 2 marines. Yeah,
Anti-infantry
anti-infantry.
4.
So he usually like kills 1 or 2 marines by himself in shooting, and then he has 6 attacks, 6 -4 2 in combat. So he can
Devon
also
also,
kill
yeah.
something, yeah, and the wounds as well. So he is actually a proper character to field. And
Here, I believe it is not played by its own. It's also a sustained source for the plasmas.
yeah, so he gives sustain for his unit, and he gives 4-up invulnerable to his unit. So he's you can either play him solo, which I actually do in one of my lists, because he has 2-up armor save, 6 wounds, so he's not that easy to shift, unless obviously opponent has like 2 or 3 night spinners. But well, it is what it is.
Even then, you have the 4-up from the pain.
Yeah,
1 turn. So even then, it's not easy.
it's yeah, well, but I think the Feel No Pain is only for mortal wounds.
Yes, you're right.
It worked before the mortal wounds changed,
They
the dev
have
wounds
completely
changed.
fucked up this rule. Okay.
Yeah, but only night spinners shift him, but then they are not shooting other things. So yeah, it's you can always think about it. But other than that, you can play him on his own, and he works. But you can also use him as a leader for a unit. In that case, Hellbrasters, and it's probably the best unit for him
Yeah.
because he gives them invulnerable save that they don't have, and he gives them sustain, which helps with their damage. And then we have a Captain in Terminator armor. Unfortunately, Captain lost a lot of his equipment options in the codex, so he no longer can take Thunderhammer, which was my go-to weapon for him, because death wounds are always good, and he no longer can have a auxiliary grenade launcher, which gave a grenade keyword to him. And it actually, before the battle tactics change, you actually could use grenade stratagem twice, so it was really efficient. Now it's gone, but he can hold enhancement that is actually quite useful. Adept of the Codex is lets you pick up combat doctrine for his squad. So basically, the Terminators can always fall back and charge, and when they use the the squad tactics stratagem, they can move 5 inches flat without rolling, which is also important against other melee armies or short range shooting armies, to just move those Deathwing Knights around. It gives them a lot of mobility. And now, when you no longer can get a stratagem to change doctrine for free, it's actually a viable enhancement, because previously you could use it, you could do it with stratagem, and you could probably spare the 20 points or so the enhancement costs. But now I would include it as well. Although you could also deploy the Deathwing Knights without the Captain, to be on the less expensive side. Well, it's probably a choice of your the player choice. Both are probably good. And then we have other data sheets. So basically, all those characters unlock a lot of utility in those units, because you are playing some big bricks, some big bully units, and those characters are crucial for them to work. Then we have the units that I already mentioned. So aggressors with Boltstorm gauntlets and Fragstorm grenade launchers. So they actually do a lot of small strength, low damage by very high volume shooting. So when you combine it with the apothecary skills, you actually do a lot of damage, and it's very reliable damage, because you have, like, on average something like 35-40 shots without the blasts. Yeah, something like that. And thanks to lethal on 5-ups with fury roll from oaths,
Oaths. Yep.
you basically do half of those as wounds. And with this amount of shots, you can usually, like, you are not risking the dice game here, because you usually get around this amount. And those shots, and actually use here Devastator Doctrine with a stratagem that gives you ignore cover and additional AP when you are under effects of Devastator Doctrine. So you end up with minus, when you're shooting the closest eligible target, you end up with -2 AP, ignore cover, which is usually enough to take down your opponents to his invulnerable save. So it means that usually no matter the armor save the opponent has, you do like a certain amount of damage. And then you obviously still have twin linked on half of those shots, because the Boltstorm gauntlets are twin linked, so you still reroll 2 wounds. And grenade launchers are strength 4, so they can still probably wound a little bit. And so you end up with a bunch of saves for your opponent to make, and those are really nice profile saves. And then we have Deathwing Knights. One thing that is also important to mention when you talk about aggressors, they have blast on those grenade launchers. So whenever you find a brick like Necron warriors, like I don't know, neophytes in Ginster cults or stuff like that,
Accursed,
you, a
accursed.
Yeah,
curse,
cursed
yeah,
cultists.
you basically like you can point at them and delete them. You just due to the high volume of shots and all those rerolls and all those lethals, those are very reliable shots that will on like 9 out of 10 games will just delete those. So it's well, it's good
On,
to have something like that in army.
another thing to notice is that they are delivered by the Landredder, so they are able also to charge after the shooting. So you will be able, with one unit, to obliterate at least two key units from your opponent, which is what we are always looking for in competitive fighting, competitive 40k, to be as efficient as we can on trades. And if you can shoot, delete the unit, and then charge, so now they are hitting on threes. They have been improved in the
Yeah,
codex. So and also very self-efficient because twin linked on close combat. So you will need the oath to the shooting attrition, but you will be completely self efficient on your close combat attrition. So very interesting to proceed like that.
yeah. And then we have our main unit, so Deathwing Knights.
Mhm.
Uh, First off, they are very resilient. They have built-in -1 damage. They have 2-up armor save and 4-up invulnerable save. And obviously, you can use armor of contempt on them. So as long as you hold few models in cover, like leaves like few like let's say 3 models in ruin, you will usually have up to AP2 you are safe. AP3 you are still saving on 3-ups. So until you get to AP4, you are very resilient against shooting. AP4 with high damage also, because as long as you have -1 damage, mm, it screws a little bit with some like damage 2, damage 4 profiles or D6 profiles. Um, so those are not those that reliable to kill them. Uh, so for example, like obliterators, if they cannot get into close range, they are wasting a lot of shots. And their smaller profiles with damage 2 are not reliable here.
And even then,
Uh,
even the, with the high profile, you will be saving three ups.
yeah, so they can be very durable well played properly. Uh, they lost a little bit because they have Watcher in the Dark, which lets you have a 4-up Feel No Pain against mortal wounds once per game. But now, when the death wounds are no longer mortal wounds, they are actually probably the best way to shift the Winged Knights, because you have no save of any kind against those. However, you still have -1 damage, which is important. For example, if you face right guards, they have D6 damage. So even though they have death wounds, they still need to roll high on their damage to actually kill a model, or use obviously a dice. But they usually use a dice to actually inflict the death wounds. So there's still also a possibility that they will waste a lot of damage there due to the wounds not, like first time you roll like a 3 or 4, so it's still not enough to kill you, and then you waste another shot on the same model. And what is also important, then like other Terminator models are not that can be also very durable, but are usually not very killy. But in case of Deathwing Knights, you actually have 4 attacks with damage 3 on each of those, and they have weapon skill 2-up. So if you combine it with Lance Stratagem, because they actually have pretty low strength on only 6 and only -1 AP. But if you combine it with Lance Stratagem and Assault Doctrine, then they have +1 to wound and AP2, and they can actually shift most units that are there in game.
That's right.
And
And
yeah,
then the Hellblasters we've talked about. The
yeah,
Hellblasters with Sustained It and 4-up Invuln. Same observation that we had previously with the fight back abilities from the Iron Storm. They have a baseline ability that allows them to shoot when they die on 3-up. So it makes them at least 1.6 times efficient because they will shoot. If you hide and then just move, shoot something, you will be also able to shoot when you die at a ratio of 2/3, so 66%. It also triggers when you kill yourself using the plasmas, and so that's very interesting because it can bring some clutch move because every abilities that triggers during the opponent's move the opponent's turn after the opponent has ended its movement will change the geometry of the game and change things very hardly for your opponent. For example, your opponent is screening the game, preventing you from coming with very important units during your turn. He's shooting at your Inceptors. You die. You target the low wounds, low resilience unit. Is you just put them there to screen out your army, so you're gonna kill it very easily, and then the game plan of your opponent is completely screwed. So that's one of the best tactical use I would find for those as Blasters, being able to change the course of the game during the turn of your opponent.
yeah. One thing that I think I'm missing here, I would probably think about an apothecary for them, as they are going on foot, so uh, they will get shot, and also even if they don't, when they shoot themselves, they will usually lose at least 2. So apothecary helps them to keep the squad running, and well, it probably if, unless they get killed like in one shot, he will probably like pay his points up
Mm,
with the models he revives.
could be.
Can you add an apothecary if you're adding Azro to the squad already?
Yeah, because apothecary as well as lieutenant have a
Mm-hmm.
special rule. You can add them if you already have a captain
Mm-hmm.
in the unit or chapter master. Same goes for the ancient or
Sure.
champion.
Yeah, that's why you have ancient and captain with the wing knights
Mm-hmm.
as well.
Yeah, I figured that one out, but wasn't sure about
Then
the apothecary.
scoring unit, so 2 times 3 Inceptor squad in assault bolter. I understand that because well, when you play them by 3, you want to use them most of the time as scoring unit and also killing lone up unit. And for that, bolters are more efficient than plasmas because they are sustained too. So they're pretty self-efficient, and they are strength 5, twin linked. So normally it's enough to kill a Calidus or to kill any Lonot that would be hiding in a corner. And also, Sustained 2 offers average Overwatch on 4-up. So if you just deep strike, shoot at a character, and miss the character because you get unlucky, the character if the characters move, you're gonna end it. So that's the interest of Assault Bolter. And then infiltrators to hold the backline and prevent deep strike 12 can be important to when you face the mirror against the Inceptors from Space Marine. can be also useful to protect an area from the incarn, but on the other hand, not um, most of the Eldor player will also be able to engineer your own ability to place the incarn where they want. So that's also a problem.
Yeah. Well, and you could also include the librarian here for those infiltrators to give them loan up, because otherwise you could actually night spinner the infiltrators and place incarn from them.
So
Or, well, I mean, as long as your opponent doesn't have no loss, they are probably fine. Or inceptors, because you can still shoot them from outside 12 and deep strike after deep strike. So, I mean, I prefer one unit with librarian than two single units, but this is also like doable. Depends on the pairing, probably.
yeah, I would agree with you. And I
And
believe
at the end,
we
we
are
got
we
Land Raider,
yeah.
probably like my favorite unit in this edition. At least it was my favorite unit. I think I'm like it got a little bit nerfed, but it's still really nice. Well, it's one of the units that really took the out of moment nerf badly because of its flamers. So it doesn't roll to hit, so no odds for him anymore. At least not for its main weapons. So flamestone cannons, and B, well, it's strength 6, so actually it wounds a lot of heavier things on 5-ups, where you actually get a lot from the wound reroll, a lot of value. But it's still really nice. It transports aggressors, and it can kill some medium infantry. Like it's very efficient to kill space marine profiles. So he wounds them usually on trees and brings down this armor save to 5-up because it's AP2 and ignores cover. And what's also very important, he's very useful in Overwatch against this kind of units. So you can place him on objective or close to an objective or close to the middle of the board if you want to prevent some area denial or similar objectives. And just threaten the enemy units with Overwatch, so you get some damage in their turn, prevent them from scoring, from doing missions. And one more thing that is important, Redeemer and Crusader have grenades keywords, so you can also throw some grenades to finish off some units, which I believe I did a few times.
Yeah, very interesting to have this keyword on a vehicle like that. The Overwatch is very efficient. I believe I've killed one or twice even vehicle on Overwatch with those flamers. It
Oh yeah, I
you
killed it many times when it had reroll to wound. Like I killed three, like single game against Chaos Knights. I killed 3 or 3.5 knights with Redeemer. 2 of those were in Overwatch.
yeah. Or I'm still doing it without the Oath of Moment because you just need to roll a bit high on your wounds because you're gonna throw an average is 13 shots from from the flamers, and average it's 4 wounds, but you could roll 6. It is not that uncommon, and if you roll 6 and your opponent rolls fairly badly, then it's not, or your opponent is a bit wounded, like a 8 wounds out of 11 on the vehicle. He's gonna lose the vehicle in the Overwatch, and most of your opponent are not ready for that, so
Yeah.
they're not prepared. They do not think they have to fear any Overwatch on their vehicle, but they have to.
Psychological warfare.
Yeah, that's it. Uh, before going to the next list, I would like to just um, be a bit more precise on the abilities of the captain, the codex discipline, as it is written now. Just I would just like your confirmation, Lesiu, but normally you're not able to use this ability any turn. You're only able to use this ability the turn you're not using assault or devastating doctrine. So it means when you activate assault or devastating doctrine, if you want to fall back and charge or fall back and shoot, you still have to use the CP from the strategy.
I'm not sure, but I believe it was ruled on WTC that you can still use it. But I would have to check FAQ now,
Okay.
or
Because
or it might
rule
be
as
a judge
written.
call on. Yeah. Rules as written, you are probably right, but I believe that it was ruled this way on WTC. Obviously, when you're playing different rules set, you probably need to check it.
Yeah.
With your judge, but for WTC, I believe it was not the case. But still, I would have to double check it.
Yep. Well, for this list is the good old Gladius, as you call it, and it has still lots of similarities from with the list you've played this summer with quite a success, and it's still efficient in team as well as in single.
I mean,
And in
one
the
thing,
knight has just been buffed because of the late AFAQ released from Game Workshop that prevent any abilities to cancel -1 damage or armor of contempt. So now they are very, very definitely tanky.
yeah, their one weakness is their movement, but there is only one useful slow ability left in the game, but unfortunately very useful. So Night Spinners, which basically cancels them. Other than that, well, Thunder Fire Cannon is no longer in game. Thousand Suns are not popular with their slow. What else there was? There was like two or three more. When I was like
Basilisks, I
preparing
know,
for
slow
WT,
down,
yeah,
but
Basilisks are not so popular. Well, they are, but Guard is not so popular. So yeah, were the issues. One thing that I'm missing here in this list are lone ops, because when I played it in a lot of matchups, you basically place your Deathwing Knights like on one flank, but probably towards the center, so you can protect, well, not protect, but cover with threat range a lot of the board, and then place Land Raider on one of the flank, so in a way that he can control like one of the side objectives or overwatch one of the side objectives, so that he can cover this side, but still be able to support Terminators with its range, and then put like two or three lone op units behind all of those, and just push this up the board and leave the lone ops with some screens behind, in a way that no deep strike can get there, and just score the points with those chaff units that are pretty much untouchable, because you need to first pass through the Deathwing Knights and Land Raider, which is pretty much impossible for some armies. They can obviously avoid them, but they have hard time to shift them. So even if they do shift them, I'm already ahead on points, and here it's a little bit tougher. But also we lost scouts with lone op. So I probably think about, like I mentioned, taking a librarian for one of the infiltrators, or including Kaldus assassin, maybe, like at least
Or
one lone op
lieutenant
or
or lieutenant.
lieutenant. Yeah, I mean, I think one lone op should be mandatory in this list. I would
Yep.
personally go for two,
I would
just
say
so when
too.
you get
It,
when you
it is
get
important. It, it,
bad
it
matchup.
allows you to develop the gameplay that is pushing the opponent with your knights. The last thing you want is having to go back on your own
Yeah,
deployment to deal with some unit that are messing with you. So you would need those to protect. Yeah, I would say two at least. I would say two and a scout
I mean,
because
I'm
the scout can also be removed and cover the side where you yeah, where you want. So I don't see the interest of the 2 times 5 the 2 times 5 infiltrators. So that's 200 points. And
I actually do. I had one unit, and in some games I wished I
yeah,
had
but
second one.
yes,
But
but you had
one
with
I would say is
Olivier.
mandatory
Yeah, but
in
you
this
had with the
list.
librarian. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. So I see the interest with the librarian, but without I do not. I'd rather have scouts, say two scouts instead of one infiltrators without the librarian.
Maybe. I mean, the ability to screen 12 inches against any deep strike is actually useful in a lot of matchups. There's especially now when inceptors are so popular.
Yeah, I understand that. Yeah, I've never, to be honest, I've never managed to uh, use this ability to its best outcome. So that's why also I'm not very inclined to use them. But I understand they are very interesting combined with the low knot because you cannot deep strike shoot and you cannot deep strike charge. So that I understand. That I really understand.
Yeah, they are useful screen.
Last
So
list or oh
yeah,
sorry.
before we do that, yeah, I got like one question, let's say. So before the LGT and during the event itself, we've mentioned a lot of the times on the channel that everyone is gearing up to kill a Necron warrior blob. Would you guys say everyone should be able to kill Deathwing Knight's blob, or will they
Well,
not be as
Mm,
popular?
it's not about
no, I don't think.
popularity. It's also about practical use. The Necron Warrior is has other tools to uh, control, crawl around, crowd control with the repop, etc. That the Death Ignite do not have. So you'd rather you could crowd control or play around the Death with Knights, and a way that you could not do for the Necron Leash Guard. It's not really the same,
Yeah,
in
I
my
think
opinion.
the issue with like Necron warriors is that if you are not, if you don't have tools to kill them, they are they basically immune. Like you cannot do anything to them because they have more resurrections than you can
Yeah.
basically kill. So they get basically like next turn or then after that they will be full squad again.
Yeah, you cannot plan an attrition on several turn as you could
Yeah,
do for the knights. If you have some extra anti-tank shot that you do not have used this turn, well, let's throw them on the knights and see if we kill one or two. It's not a problem. But Necron, they come back full strength, and worse, if you kill some, you accelerate their movement.
yeah.
So
They put the more models on the objectives. They are OC3 usually if you are investing a lot of in the blobs. If you have the command bar, so they can. mm, If you don't have tools to kill them, they will just outscore you. That's how it
Mm,
is. There's basically not much you can do. Well, you could probably play some inceptors in the back and try to kill some support or with indirect as well, but those are like ways to try to go around it. But basically, if you don't have anything to go to do to the warriors, you cannot do cheap damage into them, so they will just stand there, score points, and you will lose definitely.
okay,
if you are not
understood.
also able to crowd control, because the other problem of the warriors is the low damage outcome. So if you are able to rush them and prevent them from going on to the objective, and crowd control with a charge vehicle or I don't know, this would also save you from losing. But so you have all the tools to deal with them. But the knights you can plan attrition on several turns, so that's the difference, pretty much.
All right. And credit where credit's due. That list was submitted by Duso, I want to say. I'm not really sure how to pronounce his nickname. Otherwise, nevertheless, it's a list submitted for a TTS screen between Poland and France.
Yep.
Moving on to the last list of the day, we've got a visual representation this time around. So I'll put it on the screen. And this is a Flamestorm or Firestorm, I think is the name.
Flamestorm or Firestorm. Yeah, yeah, Firestorm, I believe. Firestorm, Dark Angel. So here the Dark Angel Azrael is played alone, only there to farm CP, and it's only 105 points. So the damage output, the resilience, and the ability are very cheap, uh, and so easy to build in list. Then you have 18 inceptors that are the keystone of the attrition. In these detachments, the plasmas go strength 9. That is very efficient to crack open the rhino or kill any Eldar vehicle, for example. And you can also give them +1 to wound if they are within 6 of the target and targeting the closest unit. So now you are wounding rhinos or spinners at 3 reroll because you're twin linked. So it's very, very efficient, AP3, damage 3, to kill those units. And if you get a bit lucky, you would kill 2 with only 1 pack of 6. I would say you will have 25% chance to kill the second and 75% chance to kill the first with Oath of Moment, which is quite good. Um, so that's the points of the interest of the Inceptors combined with the Deep Strike 3 that is also allowing you to hard punish any opponent that would have put too many resources in Deep Strike. You could screen out the board, especially if it's not Deep Strike, but if it is reserve. So, um, for example, Chaos Space Marine or a better, even better Battle Sister that are often putting unit in deep strike in reserve. If you have the first turn, maybe Morvenval is not going to see the board. So your opponent has to be very careful and also has to accept Morvenval may be deep striking or reserve in its own deployment zone very far. Then you have the good old Land Raider, Redeemer, that is now strength 7 on the Flamers, Multi-Melta strength 10, because +1 strength on those kind of weapon. Everything is assault, so you can also advance and shoot with the Flamers, which is quite useful, and the Meltas. Bringing the aggressors that are led by a Captain Primaris Captain, that sorry, a Gravis Captain that is represented by a much nicer unit in TTS that is a Drax Agathon, but it's not a Drax. Don't be mistaken there. It is a Primaris Captain that is offering the flip dice ability to improve the resilience of the pack because you can flip a save dice, and also giving the opportunity to use a free stratagem. Free stratagem you want to be using is the stratagem that transforming your torrent weapon into dev wounds. So this pack is doing average 8 mortal wounds with this stratagem and can use the grenade before. So if you want to deal mortal wounds, you're going to deal average 2 for 2 CP, so for 1 CP and a free stratagem, you're going to deal 11 mortal wounds average. And then, of course, you have the strength 5 because there are strength 4. Usually, strength 4 flamers are strength 5 because of the detachment. So you're also very useful against low toughness or average toughness unit. Everything is available. So every infantry can be targeted with a stratagem +1 to wounds. So on any toughness between 3 and 4 for 1 CP, you will wound on twos, reroll. So they are also able to deliver a high volume, very efficient on hordes, high volume of attack, not only delivering dev wounds on, for example, vehicle or very hard to kill unit like the Incarn. Then you have tool on up. As Lesiu said, it's very important for you for lists that want push the opponent and do not want to come back in the deployment zone. So you have tool on up, the lieutenant, and the Calidus. So to be fair, the lieutenant is not a goalkeeper. Is with the out of phase ability that he has, is very efficient to be behind enemy line, or not behind enemy line in a proper way, but in front of the enemy, doing the deploy teleport armor and dodging any attempt to shoot at him or charge him. It's not very difficult because most of the time, if you are hugging a wall, the only way to get a line of sight on this character is entering 9 inches. Then you have the possibility to move 6, so getting in blown up range or hiding behind a wall. So it's not as difficult as the autarchs to catch, but it's quite hard to catch. And then you have the three whirlwind that I really love because I've been playing them since the beginning of the V10. They have lost 5 points and the reroll wounds, so they are not that efficient as were used to be. But if you're not trying to kill unit you're not supposed to kill, so if you're remaining on toughness 4 or toughness 5 to 7 unit, you did not really lose that many firepower. So you lost on toughness 4 and less, you only lost 15% firepower, and on toughness 5, 6, and 7, you only lost 25% firepower. And that's if you are not using the lieutenant abilities to reroll wounds, to reroll ones to wound. So it is bad. 25% is bad. 15% is okay, but you were really strong, and you're still killing the unit you need to kill behind a wall, preventing you to engage aggressors or inceptors to kill a very small unit or wolf, Fenrisian wolf. We've been seeing. So those very small unit meant to um, moderate resource engagement in the early stage of the game, you are still able to kill them pretty easily, and that's the role they have. Uh, and they are goalkeeper because they are screening out the back lane very efficiently, moving 10 inches and with a big hole footprint. And to finish, you have the scouts that are the Calidus with less powerful abilities, but still useful for the secondaries. And you also need, at least in every competitive list, in my opinion, a unit that is able to infiltrate, and you can use as an expendable unit to move block or be a pain in the ass on your opponent game plan. They can infiltrate and scoot move 6, which is uh, which is very important to do this kind of move. So you can be 9 inches from your opponent in case you start and you want to aggress, or in case your opponent start and you want to move block, or and then you can hide if you are not happy with the initiative roll. So 55 points, I believe they are given, and everyone should play at least one. And that's it. That's the list.
Yeah, I agree about the scouts. They are very useful in most lists, and the Firestorm looks very solid. I played something similar, I would say. Um, I really like the aggressors with the captain. They are a very versatile unit. The ability to turn one die to a six combined with three stratagems. Because after you get out and to the damage phase, you can then start to like do the defense part. So you can then next turns use this for armor of contempt, for example. So if you combine this with cover and the ability to turn a die for a six, they are actually become quite resilient. And also, Captain gives them some more melee strength than you have in Gladius list, because the Apothecary actually doesn't hit at all. Like he has like 4 attacks with strength 4 or something like that, not important ones. And here you have another 5 or so attacks with power fists, depending on the loadout you take. So he improves the close combat efficiency of this unit, and they are in total, I would say, my favorite unit in Firestorm. And Inceptors are very efficient in this list as well. What I saw when playing the Firestorm as its weakness is that you usually have at least one turn when you need to commit a lot of resources. And if this commit is not as successful as you expect it to be or hope it to be, then you can have some
Y-
problems
Yeah,
following
you
turns
can be very
because
hardly punished. The punishment
yeah,
is very hard.
yeah, because the Inceptors are not that durable for a 220 point unit, especially if you consider that usually you will lose one due to hazardous, because
Mhm.
you most of the times you will overcharge the plasmas. So you'll use one. If you are unlucky, you'll use two, and then you are left with four. Then you get some shots in. You lose another two or so, and then you are actually left with a mission unit, not a damage unit, which is very unfortunate for 220 points that you put on the board. So, like I said, I like this detachment, but it's a tricky one to play, and I don't want to say very, but it's um, quite um, like its weakness is that you can get punished very badly by bad dice rolls.
Yeah, and as you can say, you do not have that many units. You only have 4 units, five with the Landretta that are damage output unit. So if you are facing someone that has no problem crack opening your Landretta, this is a problem you will have to deal since the deployment. So you're not comfortable since turn one if your opponent is able to kill your Land Raider, no problem. So for example, Race Guard, they can checkmate the Land Raider anytime. So that's a problem. And then you still have 3 units or 4 units that are Space Marine Elite. So 3 up save, of course, quite good toughness, but only 3 wounds, and they would disappear quite easily. And you do not have the versatility you would have in Gladius, so you cannot fall back and shoot, cannot fall back and charge. So even an opponent that could not kill your Inceptors, it could just bump them, engage them, and oblige you to shoot your Plasma's pistol into something like Fenrir Wolves or I don't know. So it is a quite hard detachment to play, but quite satisfying also. It is linked that if it's difficult to play and you manage to play it well, it is pretty satisfying. But still, uh, in my opinion, it works. It is my list, so I'm going to play this list against Poland this week in our scream. But still, I think it is too few unit to be very efficient in every way. But but to be to but beware, you have 18 inceptors that can deep strike anywhere on the board, clear a quarter of the board, and prevent you from answering also. So it is very you have a lot of possibility of tactical possibilities. So if your opponent is not very careful, doing very carefully his movement phase, turn two or turn one if you have the initiative, it can be the end of the game. Turn two.
Yeah, definitely. The damage is there. The only thing I'm a bit concerned is resiliency, but the damage is there, and you choose where to apply it. Like very few armies can screen anything here. Well, the probably you might have some problems facing transports. I mean, you need to plan it more carefully. Probably like use one of the Inceptor units, turn two to kill some Rhino or something like that, and then do the turn where you drop everything else. Well, depends where the units from transport can disembark and so on, or use Land Raider for it. Well, there are possibilities there.
Actually, you have the firepower to crack open the transport because you're strength nine, but the problem is the number of activation you have.
Yeah,
So
that's what
I
I'm.
yeah, you could use the whirlwind and the oath of movement that is able to target unit within transport to activate or to sequence properly your activation to kill the transport. But yeah, if you do not kill two transport with one pack plus one to wound, then it starts to be problematic, especially if the transport costs 75 points like a rhino.
Yeah,
Especially
that's what I also noticed, that it's really hard to trade up those inceptors. You usually trade down or similar points, unless obviously your opponent gives you like similar profile elite infantry, then they are really good at killing those.
yeah.
So that might be also an issue. But like I
Yeah,
said, damage is there.
the best way to trade up with them, in my opinion, is killing things and by the geometry you're creating with those, doing crowd control or doing screen out for the deep strike or the reserve. Then they have utilities outside the trade. That's the best way to use it, in my opinion. But your opponent is not always offering you those possibilities.
Still, it feels like the Inceptors are one of the more, if not the most popular units. I think they're the only one that came up in all four of the lists we've gone through, and they can both serve a chaff scoring function as well as a damage dealer one. So feels
Yeah,
like a
and
solid pick.
especially so they lose. That's one thing that I did not understand from this codex. They are not impacted by the loss of Oath of Moment reroll wound because they are twin linked,
Because yeah,
and they lost 5 points for three models. So of course, people they were already played in most of the list, at least in shaft unit because of the meteor strikes that allow deep strike three. So they were already popular. Now they are popular to damage dealing because you can use them to deal damage outside the house of moment um, and wherever you want on the board because deep strikes free is pretty unavoidable or undodgeable.
Yeah, it is. Like
okay.
basically, I think that it shouldn't start a list without at least three of them, or and possibly two times three if you have points, because they are perfect for missions and they can do damage. I mean, even three Inceptors can probably trade with like I don't know 5 Marines or something like that.
Mm. Or even a spinner. If you have three, you're gonna still wound on five on 55%. So let's say three to six shots. If you are oath of movements, you're gonna shoot five out of six, and then it's gonna be three wounds. AP3, you're gonna do 9 wounds. It's still efficient. And if you are Flamestorm, you're gonna kill it with three.
Yeah, with Firestorm, you're probably right. Although, like my first game against Eldar, I shot all six with +1 to wound against Spinner without anything, and did 3 wounds. So
Yes, but that's because you didn't use O's and you used a -1 to hit, right?
no,
No? Oh, that's
no, no,
because
no, nothing.
no
I
nothing.
mean, I didn't use
No
oath,
oath, no
but
-1.
no.
Yep, hard one.
Where were
It
the
is what it is.
famous Lesiu 4-ups? Or maybe there were 4-ups and you needed 5s.
Those were 4-ups, 3-ups, then 4-ups.
And 4-ups reroll.
Something was off.
Three
Yeah,
no 4-ups
4-ups
with
roll.
3-up +1 to win. 3-up, then 3-up reroll against spinners.
Yeah, I guess spinners was 3-up reroll.
3 wins. Yeah. Bad one.
It happens. It
Hmm.
happens.
Yeah, you have a very. That's the problem with the plasmas. You have a very low amount of shots, so it is pretty dicey. You you have a very large distribution around the average score, the average damage you're supposed to do, and so it is very sensitive to smoke stratagem -1 to hit or rapid. I can remember, so the reflex, so -1 to hit from the Eldar, especially if you're trying to target a unit that is not jinxed by Oath of Moment. Then you can have problem because you can roll badly and do nothing. So that's the main
Yeah,
problem. They're very dicey. And you can also lose three because, as you said, you can lose one or two. My specialty is lose three at the same time with the explosion, and then you're happy, and your opponent is even happier.
first game WTC, three plasma inceptors shooting Shalaxi or whatever on like last 2 or 4 wounds. I don't remember at the moment, but like low wounds Shalaxi. I did like 1 wound after feel no pain, and then rolled hazardous triple ones. Yeah,
Yeah,
easy.
yeah. I know that I've
That's
done.
what you call trading down.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
that's
what you call
trading now.
trading down on your own. And also, the thing that I'd never do anymore is trying to control an objective for secondaries and rolling with every single one of them
Yeah,
overcharge. Because last time I've done that, I had four and lost four at the time. So I didn't thought it was possible. I promise it is. So now, no matter how many I have, I I say one is not overcharging, so he's able to remain in control of the objective for the secondary, whatever the number.
yeah, but they are still good.
Yeah, they are. They are. And I believe I don't want to say something that is not true, but I believe now in the core rule we can re-roll hazardous roll, right?
You mean from command point?
Yep.
Yeah, you can.
So
I was actually told this like pretty recently. I didn't know it, but yeah, you can.
yeah, it is
Something
new.
I didn't expect to be in a command rule like whatsoever.
Yeah. So I believe you can roll that, and you can also roll desperate breakout tests.
Yeah,
So if you need really to hold your unit and preserve an inceptor, you can reroll a one and then get punished by another one. But you can try.
yeah, classic one
Classic.
into one
That's it.
reroll.
That's it. That's it.
Okay, I didn't know you can now reroll these things. That's actually useful information.
Masterclass.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Masterclass indeed. All right, we've gone on for quite a while, guys. Thanks very much for helping me deliver this, or actually delivering it on your own. For our patrons, this is obviously now out. By now, I mean whenever I post this. To anyone else who'd like to listen without subscribing or becoming a patron, well, this will be out in like 3-4 weeks. Hopefully, still up to date at that point. Anyhow, if you like what we do, please like, subscribe, and become a patron as well, because then you'll be able to get more master classes as they come and all sorts of other interesting perks. And with me today, I've had Lesiu
Hey,
and Olivier,
Hello.
the Space Marine expert. Thanks, all, and goodbye.
Goodbye.
goodbye.